let's go ahead and move into my main topic. This is me asking you a question.
Me or them?
This is me asking you a question.
Okay, because I try to ignore you most of the time.
Well, you can't ignore me because I'm going to ask you a question.
All right, here we go.
So, I have always struggled with fuzz pedals.
I know.
Every time I listen to them, not every time, many times I listen to them, I think, man, I love that. I'm going to buy it. And I buy it. And I struggle with it.
I know.
Dang, I struggle with it. You bought me a fuzz pedal,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of my intro into fuzz. The first time I played a fuzz pedal that I really got into and was like, oh, I get it. I kind of get it. So I want to ask you, and it's going to help our listeners out, give me a little bit of a guide into fuzz for the guy that doesn't. He likes the sound of them, but he doesn't really get it. Like he doesn't get the fuzz thing yet.
Okay.
How do I get into these fuzz pedals? Like, what's a good place to start, or how do you look at them? Because there's a huge variant, and I'm not saying get into all the variants. I'm just saying kind of get me my foot in the door to get me started on these, and then we can explore further from there.
Okay. Oh, goodness. This is a rabbit hole that might take us a while.
And you can tell them what you've done to kind of get me into it, I guess, would be the best part.
Okay, we'll start there.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of go off on a tangent, because this might take a bit. So if you like fuzz or are thinking about getting into fuzz, this is a good video to watch.
Are you fuzz curious?
Okay. So anyways, so we did Pedal Miss one year. I think it was like our second year.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey has never been a huge fuzz guy. Now, that being said, I know some of his favorite tones have been Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin. When you watch it, it might get loud. He plugs in this tone bender circuit, and he plugs it into Marshall, and it's just a whole vibe.
It's glorious.
It sounds fantastic. You see Jack White and The Edge, they're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
So there's something to it. There's also, what I love about it is there's a little section where he plays Ramble On, and he rolls his volume down, and it's a glorious clean. Turns it up, and it's that monstrous, like, distortion fuzz sound.
Yep.
And I think if there was any fuzz sound for you to truly enjoy at first, it was that sound from Jimmy Page. So I knew if I was going to get you into any fuzz, it had to be in the tone bender realm.
And I had recently gotten this Marshall.
Right. So it made sense that I got you a tone bender, because you don't really want to plug it into a Fender clean, right? It's meant to be in a cranked amp, or at least a breaking up amp. So I went and found a tone bender style-esque circuit for Pedal Miss. And this is from Love Pedal. I think it's the MK2, MK3, something like that. But it's just a volume and a gain, just like a tone bender. You open the Pedal Miss, and you're like, yeah, not really looking forward to this.
I was like, man, I guess I'm going to have fun with this.
Yeah, sure. And there's hardly no design on it, right? So it's not that appealing. But anyways, we plugged it in, and we tried it clean, and we're like, yeah, this is not what we're looking for. But then you put it in front of a drive, and that changed the game.
Changed the game. Yeah, it was the first fuzz pedal I plugged into that I was like, I get it. I think many of the fuzz pedals I first tried out were fuzz face inspired pedals.
Sure.
And reason one I didn't get it is I probably had the wrong amp for it, A. B, I think I was plugging it into a clean amp, which is not great for most fuzz faces. Some people like them, and different fuzz faces are different. But I wasn't a big fan of that. And then also, I think a lot of the fuzz faces style pedals I was plugging into were very like Jimi Hendrix-esque style things that probably would have done better with Strats and things along those lines. And I was trying to play Les Pauls.
Right.
And I didn't understand, like, I'd play a chord on it, and I'd be like, oh, this thing sounds like trash. And, like, I didn't understand how to work it. It's almost fuzzes are almost like another instrument.
They really are. So what you have to think about with fuzz, if you're first getting into fuzz, is what is my current setup? So are you playing a single coil? Are you playing humbuckers? Are you playing in a Fender amp? Are you playing in a Vox? Are you playing in a Marshall? And I know there's a lot out there, but that's the main
Basic food groups.
Camps, right? So if you're going into a Fender style amp, you're probably not going to want to go into a fuzz face because it's real boomy, right? So the bottom end is just going to be, it's going to sound too thick, especially if you're going into a clean amp. It's just going to sound like trash.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
And if you're going into a clean amp, you can't put a drive after it.
Right.
And turn the drive on, and that will help some.
It'll help for sure. So, I mean, that is an option if you have that at your disposal. Now, if you're playing, if you're playing in a Marshall, you've got humbuckers, you're going to want a fuzz that's a little more mid-focus, which obviously a tone bender is. So, it's kind of like if you think about a treble booster but fuzzier, to me that's a tone bender.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Mick Ronson thing, that is some great fuzz sounds, right? So you got to think about what you have. You also have to think about what you're inspired by. So he's a big Jimmy Page guy. I do like Hendrix, but to me, like I said, I think earlier, Dwayne Allman, he's my guy. And, he played a fuzz face through, actually I think he played some Fenders, but they were cranked.
Yeah, and I think there is a misconception too that, maybe not a misconception, I think a lot of people think that Hendrix was stepping on the fuzz face and stepping off the fuzz face all the time.
All volume knob.
It was all his volume knob, and he would turn down his volume and get those super beautiful cleans. And that's half the reason why his cleans were so glorious, is because his fuzz face was on, he rolled down that volume, and it's so bright and spanky and sparkly. Mm-hmm. Even with those long coily cables he had and all that capacitance through those, he was still keeping all that bright spank in that Fender guitar because that fuzz face was on and he had rolled down.
And another thing you have to think about with fuzz is each camp is completely different. And when I talk about a camp, I'm talking about fuzz face, tone bender, big muff, the ram head.
I would almost call a rat pedal turned up super high, the gain cranked up, almost fuzzy too.
So that's another good entry point into fuzz. If you're going into a rat, because it's between distortion and fuzz. So Analog Man makes this Astrotone fuzz. That's a great entry point. Wampler had the Velvet fuzz, the Cryptid fuzz, I think now. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of entry points. Something I want you to keep in mind, especially if you're really looking into fuzz, if you're getting in the nitty gritty, there is a big difference in silicon and germanium. So when you're looking at, and especially, power, right? Because germanium is going to be a little more finicky, but the tones are pretty different. So to me, germanium is the biggest boom, so you get the most low end out of it. Silicon is a little more piercing. It's closer to a tone bender style if you're looking in the fuzz face realm. So really take a look at germanium silicon, what you think. I think for me, the most flexible fuzz is probably that Scarab. I don't know if you've looked into that.
Basic Audio Scarab Deluxe.
Yeah. I think that is probably one of the most flexible fuzzes.
I think that is based off a tone bender also.
Right.
It's definitely tweaked a bunch.
Tweaked a lot.
Yeah.
If you're going for like a traditional fuzz face, full tone 69, you have a bunch of different bias contour controls on there. That helps you. I would say if you have a traditional volume and a fuzz knob, you're less likely to be inspired. Now, that was taking a risk.
Yeah.
That was taking a risk with you because there's not a whole lot of bias control.
Nope.
So
that's why something like the Sunface, I've got a Sunface from Analog Man up here, and you can get the bias pot put on the outside. Very beneficial.
Right.
For trying to get those tweaked.
Especially when you have germanium, because every room's going to be different. The temperature is going to change how it sounds. There's a lot of variables with fuzz, honestly.
Yeah, there is.
And then you have like the gated fuzz sounds from Z-Vex and stuff like that. Like, there's honestly, as much as there are different amps, I feel like fuzz is almost like a totally different spectrum of amps.
It almost feels like every fuzz pedal is like a different guitar. Like,
kind of.
You almost have to play it like a completely different instrument, and even the same fuzz pedals, the same type of fuzz pedals, they're going to feel a little bit different and sound a little bit different.
Right. And typically, this is not all the time, but germanium typically cleans up a little better than silicon, stuff like that. So there's just a lot that goes into it. I think your best bet is to either get into those distortion style fuzzes.
That's why I'm going to nail you down to this.
Okay.
I'm a guitar player, never owned a fuzz pedal. You don't know what amp I play. What should I look at?
Well, you've given me nothing.
I know, that's the point. What should I look into? Should it be that rat pedal?
If you don't have a rat, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to get a rat.
Okay. Well, I think the Astro Fuzz is probably a good place to go.
I think the Scarab is probably number one.
Scarab is good. And then I think if you're the guy that likes to have a little taste of each style, you want a tone bender, you want a fuzz face, you want a little bit, you want the octave fuzz thing. I think that some of these JHS, what is the wedge-shaped boxes they make?
Oh, it's just the Legend series.
The Legend series. I think that Legend series, if you're one to get into specific fuzzes, it's probably not a bad place to look either.
Yeah, so I don't dislike the JHS fuzzes. It's just I get concerned when people go to a specific sound initially for a fuzz because then you think this is all fuzz is.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Right.
And that's what screwed me up. So yeah, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe I'm wrong saying that.
I would say the Scarab, if you're into tone bender-esque, you would go full tone 69 if you're into fuzz face-esque.
Yeah.
And
I've got a full tone 72, which is silicon, right?
Yeah,
and
that's a silicon. If that's your thing, it's a little more nasally.
Yeah.
The germanium's a little more boomy. Electro Harmonics makes so many big muff variants now.
Yeah.
And honestly, you're not going to go wrong there. But and you got the JHS Muffaletta, which has got a lot of fuzz in that too. So there's a lot of options you can go. What I'm trying to get at is if you like certain sounds, search what those sounds are, figure out what your current setup is, and maybe you can find a roundabout way to get there. But don't be defeated. Fuzz is like... You think overdrives are difficult.
Yeah.
Fuzz is very difficult because there's lots of variables.
And every guitar and every amp you plug into is going to be radically different with that fuzz pedal. So if the person's fuzz that you love the sound of is a fuzz face, but you're playing a Fender Twin and you're playing a 335, probably don't buy that fuzz face.
You're going to get some feedback.
Yeah. So maybe don't buy that fuzz face. Look at a different fuzz, right?
Right.
And so I think you kind of gave us some good entry points.
Yeah. Another tip, and I know you want to end it, but don't forget your tone knob with a fuzz, because if it's too bright, there's a reason you have a tone knob on that guitar. You actually might end up loving that pedal.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely done that where it's really bright and just been like, I got to turn this thing off. And I probably could have tweaked it with my tone.
Just tone knob. The tone knob in a fuzz is super interactive.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that helped you guys out. I think it actually cleared up a few things for me.
Okay, awesome.
We need to do an episode where we play a handful of these different fuzz types and get a little better sound examples of it too. I think that would be good. I think that would be ultra beneficial for this guy.
Okay, whatever works.
I struggle with them still. You've gotten me into them. But I still struggle making some of them work and finding the right places for them.
And it can be defeating. I get that because fuzz is so specific.
How many times have I put a fuzz on my board, went to a gig, and halfway through the gig I just want to throw it?
It's why did I even bring this?
I step on it and I'm out of the mix and it sounds harsh.
If you're going for a mix and just a hairy fuzz, Astrotone, that's a great go-to.
Okay. Well, anyway, write down what you guys think down below. Do you guys have another pedal suggestion maybe that would be good to get into fuzz?
Yep.
Because there's a ton of them out there.
Yeah. Mojo Hand makes great. I mean, there's a bunch, so.
Yeah, literally thousands.
Yep.
So, anyway, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.